Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is just going to be a very casual, sit down, chatty one, all about raising my baby Jewish? Question mark. So this is going to be just my personal, very crude understanding, which is that Judaism is a religion, but it's also an ethnicity and it's also a culture. For me personally, it's very much not a religion, and I very much identify with the ethnic heritage, which that sounds weird to me to say, but more specifically the culture. I definitely feel very culturally Jewish. If you watched my 23andMe DNA test video though, I came out as 50% Ashkenazi Jew. So there we go, that's my mother's side, and then my dad is not Jewish, so 50% British. Even in my own life with non-Jewish friends, I do often find it really difficult to explain that for me, being Jewish kind of has nothing to do with religion. And this is definitely something that comes up in conversation a lot with my partner Dan, who isn't Jewish, and his understanding of it is very much, but it's a religion and you're doing all of these religious things, and he's very much an atheist, as am I, and so that kind of makes him feel uncomfortable sometimes when it comes to thinking about how we want to raise our children. But for me, I'm just no, but it's all just fun cultural stuff, it's got nothing to do with God. And trying to explain that and have somebody who isn't Jewish understand is often really difficult. So I just wanted to throw that out there, is that it's can be really murky, this whole thing, in terms of what being Jewish means to you and to the other people around you. This is just going to be my experiences of my childhood and my kind of thoughts around raising my own children Jewish. So first off, let's cast our minds back to young baby Jewish little Hannah and my Jewish childhood. I would say that my childhood was actually quite Jewish, definitely more Jewish than my life is now. When I was a kid, every Friday we would do Shabbat, so lighting the candles and singing songs, eating challah, drinking wine as kids. One of the things that is a running theme throughout my Jewish childhood is this a Jewish thing or is this just my family specific thing? So one thing that we would do on Friday nights was there was the Shabbos fairy that was kind of a mixture of Santa and the Tooth Fairy, but a Jewish version. So after the candles and the wine and the bread, we would then just dance around the kitchen singing songs, and miraculously, suddenly some sweets and chocolate would appear under the challah cloth. And honestly, no idea how my parents pulled this off, because we were literally in the same room but just distracted by singing and dancing. Incredible work, parents. But I'm pretty sure that that is not a traditional Jewish thing. As a kid, we also did Passover and Hanukkah, with our families. We also did lots of dressing up for Purim every year. My mum has lots of Jewish friends. Her childhood was a lot more Jewish than mine, and she went to a Jewish school and had Jewish hobbies and clubs that she was a part of. And so a lot of her adult friends are Jewish, and so then all of their kids kind of became my Jewish friends, but not many of them were my own age. But we still had kind of this Jewish community in Manchester. I also went to Cheder, which is a Jewish Sunday school for Jewish kids to go to, where I learned to read Hebrew and just learned about lots of different stories in the Torah. But then I get to 12 years old, where my rabbi sits me down and goes, "Hannah, it's your bat mitzvah year. Here is all the work that you have to do over the next year," and plonks down this massive binder. In my head, in my memory, it's this thick. And I just went, no thanks. And my mum did a bat mitzvah, but she kind of always said that she didn't enjoy the process of doing it. So when I said I didn't want to do mine, she was like, all good. That's your choice. In general, from my childhood, I've got all of these really brilliant and positive memories of food and family and all of these different festivals and celebrations. But after about 12, 13 years old, I definitely wasn't as involved as much. And I was becoming a teenager and I wanted my Friday nights to socialize with my friends. And whilst I was surrounded by lots of Jewish adults, most of my friends and the people that I went to school with weren't Jewish. And so I kind of was a bit more disconnected in that way. So that was my childhood, but am I raising my baby Jewish? So being Jewish actually goes down the mother's side. It's matrilineal. So even though my dad isn't Jewish, because my mum is Jewish, I am Jewish. So this baby is gonna be technically Jewish. We're not a kosher household though, and if this baby has a penis, we're definitely not planning on circumcising them. What I really do want though is for my children to understand their family history. So my great-grandparents were German, and I knew my great-grandma. She died when she was like 104 years old, so I had a lot of my childhood and teenage and adult years knowing her. There's this saying that I often hear about the Holocaust, which is never forget, and so I definitely want to make sure that I pass on that knowledge and that history and that resilience to my children. So Dan and I aren't religious in any way. We're definitely like an atheist household, but we do celebrate Christmas, which in the UK at least is a very secular holiday that doesn't really feel like anything religious about the way that we celebrate Christmas. It is very much about food and family, which to me is kind of like what all of these other Jewish traditions and festivals are as well. But ultimately, when it comes to religion, when people are old enough, they can make their own decisions about what they believe. My life as an adult now isn't very Jewish day to day, so that will kind of be the life that my children are raised in. I kind of feel like over the generations, it's been watered down. So my mum's childhood was a lot more Jewish than my childhood, and my childhood is probably going to be a lot more Jewish than my kids' childhood. But that doesn't make them any less Jewish, and we'll definitely like still get together for the big kind of like family ones like Passover or Hanukkah. And even if there's not going to be a lot of Jewish stuff in our life day to day, it's still very important to me for them to know that they are Jewish and that they come from a Jewish family. In terms of anti-Semitism in general, in terms of like the much broader global problem, that is something that I am worried about, but I'm not worried specifically really about anti-Semitism impacting my kids. And that's mostly because like I personally don't really experience a huge amount of anti-Semitism. Like most people wouldn't know that I'm Jewish unless I told them, but that also doesn't mean that the general anti-Semitism that is out there doesn't impact me, because I'm like, well, I'm Jewish, and so like there are lots of people out there who don't like Jews. And so whilst I predict that my kids won't experience direct anti-Semitism themselves, I still want it to be something that they are aware of, and I want them to feel proud of being Jewish. Like I feel really proud of being Jewish. Like I absolutely love it, and I want to kind of like pass that on to my children as well. And I think it comes hand in hand with teaching children about all different kinds of prejudice that is out there, because it is all connected. Okay, so I asked my patrons what questions they had relating to raising my baby Jewish, and so let's dive into some of them. Do you have any idea about how you want to teach them about other religions and how much? Like maybe just have a few children's introductory books on Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, etc. This is honestly not something that I've like really thought about. I kind of just imagined that it would be something that would come up, especially because Judaism will be referenced a lot, and so it will kind of feel natural, I guess, to be like, and other people are other religions too. We've got friends and family friends as well who are like Christian, who are Muslim. I feel like it will come up, and then like maybe we get some more like formal books around it, or like children's books that at least have like representations of different kids and characters in it that have different religions. But it's not something that I'm really making like an active plan for, I guess. There's no lesson plans. Which Jewish traditions are you really looking forward to doing with your kids, and are there any you won't be continuing? Well, I guess like circumcision is one that I definitely won't be continuing, but in terms of kind of like festivals and activities and stuff, definitely want to continue going to like family Passover, doing Hanukkah with family. I absolutely love apples and honey for Rosh Hashanah, which is Jewish New Year, so definitely that. Dressing up for Purim, that's not something that I've done since I was a kid, but maybe it'll be something that I want to like bust out again with my own children. Do you feel pressure to raise your child with a certain religion, and if so, from where? Even though I'm like really excited about raising my baby Jewish and like them knowing that they're Jewish, I definitely feel like there is a responsibility there. Because Jews are an oppressed group, because we are a minority, I definitely feel like there is a responsibility to be like, no, I am Jewish, I'm having a Jewish child, they need to know that they're Jewish. And also because I'm not religious and most of my life isn't very Jewish in its day-to-day activities, there does feel like this pressure of like, oh, I'm not going to be like raising my baby Jewish enough. So that's weird, but that is very like internal pressure. Like I don't feel like I'm getting that pressure from any family members, like they couldn't care less. What does Dan think re the traditions? What would he think if you did want more than what you usually do? So I actually asked Dan this question. I was like, so we don't really do Hanukkah, just the two of us, but like, what if when there's a baby, I'm like, no, I want to buy a Hanukkah and like, let's do Hanukkah. And he was like, that would be a bit weird. I think for Dan, it's an interesting one because he definitely sees all of these kind of traditions as being like religious rituals, which for some people they are, but for me, they really aren't. And so it's a lot of like trying to explain that that's the case. Like I'm actually really grateful that I don't understand Hebrew because it means that I can say all the prayers and sing all of the songs and not like feel weird about that as an atheist. And Dan made an excellent suggestion, and I wonder if any of you have recommendations, but are there any secular Jewish songs? Because there's like loads of like secular Christmas songs that have nothing to do with like God or Jesus, but like are there any like secular Passover songs, secular Hanukkah songs? Like we'd love to hear your recommendations. What are traditions and cultural things that you are especially excited to share with your kid? So obviously all of the festivals and the food and everything that I've talked about there, but more specifically, I'm very excited to share with them a Rugrats Hanukkah. I absolutely love the Rugrats. I was raised on the TV show, and the Rugrats Hanukkah episode is just like one of my favorites. And this is a book that was released last year that is basically that TV episode with gorgeous illustrations. I actually asked for this book from my parents for Hanukkah last year. So pretty! And so one, I'm really excited to kind of like show my kids the actual TV episode of A Rugrats Hanukkah, but I just have this like gorgeous illustrated kids book of that episode as well. A Maccababy's gotta do what a Maccababy's gotta do. So yeah, that's kind of like a specific thing that I'm very excited to share. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments if you are Jewish, if you want to have kids, if you have kids, and like how you've navigated all of that, or if you are a different religion and you're kind of like having lots of similar conversations with your partner or trying to navigate all of that kind of stuff with your children too. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you are well, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!